Lex Luthor?
Today we're going to be talking about the many changes Lex Luthor has gone through in recent years. Then I'll get into my theory as to why that's happened and what it means. Now before we begin, if you like Comic Island, be sure to subscribe to our channel and check out our Patreon page in the video description. So, here's the thing. It occurred to me, after checking out some of the more recent Justice League comics, Lex Luthor has gone through an awful lot of changes in recent years. Generally, in this character's history, if you know the basics about Lex Luthor, you know enough. He's a business guy, a genius, and really, truly hates Superman. That's enough to carry you through the vast majority of Lex Luthor-related stories, cloning and weird relationships with a fake Supergirl aside. But since the early part of the New 52, that hasn't exactly been true. Lex has been on an interesting journey, especially by the standards of most comic book villains. It all traces back to the event Forever Evil. It's one of my favorite moments in all of the New 52, depicting this evil version of the Justice League called the Crime Syndicate invading Earth and taking over. In response, Luthor partnered with Batman, and together they led a team of villains against the Crime Syndicate's control. The group was victorious, and the experience had a profound effect on Luthor. Not only was he forgiven in the eyes of both the public and the law, he actually enjoyed the experience of being a superhero. He found it fulfilling and chose to pursue that feeling. Though it should be noted that, though this was a change in his character, the character hadn't completely changed. This is best illustrated by what Luthor did after he chose to become a hero. He used the information he gained from the event Forever Evil, namely that Batman is really Bruce Wayne, in order to blackmail his way onto the Justice League. So Luthor wasn't suddenly some saint, he wasn't suddenly above blackmail or committing crimes, but he did want to work for a better good. He sincerely wanted to be at the side of the Justice League and various heroes to protect people and help his teammates to the best of his ability. Now it should be noted again that his character hadn't fundamentally changed, and being a hero to him came from Luthor's perspective. And that might take the form of him, say, throwing Superman into a hellish pit on Apocalypse because they were surrounded by enemies and were basically screwed if Luthor didn't do that. So Luthor is genuinely trying to help, but he was still Lex Luthor. It was a very cool direction for his character. Then the unthinkable happened, if it hadn't already happened before. Superman died. Though eventually he would return, it would never be the same Superman that Luthor had known and worked with on the Justice League. And the man who once hated Superman with every fiber of his being chose to take up that name for a while in the honor of his fallen comrade, even when a new version of Superman emerged. Luthor operated like this for some time, even reaching an understanding with the new Superman, both sort of agreeing to carry on that name for a time.
Lex could be counted on as a true... Never recorded during a power outage before.
So there was a time Lex could genuinely be counted on by the other superheroes of Earth as a true ally. Sadly, it didn't last. First, Lex's respect for the current and former Superman eroded, to the point that he openly abandoned that mantle. Now back to simply identifying as Lex Luthor, then the Earth experienced yet another invasion, this time from a place called the Dark Multiverse. We actually covered this realm in this video if you're interested to learn more about that particular realm of existence. The Dark Multiverse invaders were eventually destroyed save for a powerful, malignant version of Batman called the Batman Who Laughs. But this victory came at a terrible cost. The DC universe is protected by a barrier called the Source Wall. Without it, this universe will be destroyed, and in order to defeat the Dark Multiverse, the heroes of Earth inadvertently created a hole in the Source Wall. Following this, Lex and many others were abducted by an android called Brainiac. This being explained to a group of heroes and villains that the hole in the Source Wall unleashed 4 cosmic beings called the Omega Titans. These beings were eventually stopped, but it seemed to cement something that had been brewing within Luthor for some time. My interpretation of things at this point is that Lex had a very interesting reaction to the life of a superhero. The endless chaos of one potentially earth-shattering calamity after another left him disillusioned about the fate of the world and the nature of existence in general. That's when he quit the Justice League and began searching for more answers. Lex's work led to him discovering secret research done by his father, Lionel Luthor. Lionel had discovered that the universe was built on 7 forms of energy, many of which should be familiar to DC fans. There are the various energies of the emotional spectrum that empower the Green Lanterns and others, water and its essential connection to life, and magic, which is a huge part of the DC universe. But Lionel had discovered 7 other hidden forms of energy that the universe once relied on and had been built around, but were sealed away long ago. These are all dark mirrors of the 7 more positive energies the universe is currently built on. They include stuff like a force that destroys magic and gods, an ultraviolet lantern core based on hidden emotions, and other twisted forms of energy. Lionel had discovered these energies could be channeled through a powerful artifact that at first appeared to be a simple doorknob. Once Luthor obtained this information and artifact, as well as confirming that the future of humanity was indeed doomed on its present course, Luthor designed an insane plan to ensure humanity's survival. He learned more from the Batman Who Laughs that these dark energies were originally used by the creator of not just their universe, but the entire DC multiverse. Her name was Perpetua, and she had originally built the multiverse to be used as a weapon against others like her. Humanity was created as a hybrid species with an alien race that would serve as her army. I made a whole video about Perpetua, and you can check that out by clicking on the button in the top corner here. But suffice to say, Lex decided that she would be the only way humanity could survive. To Luthor, the old model of heroes saving the world and duking it out with villains was doomed to fail. He had seen it himself by traveling to the future. Lex has come to believe that the only way humanity can survive long-term is by fundamentally changing the nature of humanity as a species. And Lex came to firmly believe this could be done by embracing their origins as Perpetua's army. So Luthor created a new Legion of Doom composed of various villains, and they began to aggressively find and seize these malevolent sources of power. Luthor's plays have been big moves that have hit the League hard. They've barely managed to set Luthor back at all, and even then, he did eventually succeed at freeing Perpetua from her prison and securing 6 of the 7 dark energies. By freeing Perpetua, Luthor destroyed the Source Wall completely and has effectively doomed the multiverse. It will slowly fade away without the wall to protect it, and as of now, nothing can stop that. Luthor has in effect forced humanity's hand. Humanity basically has to embrace Perpetua, or the Justice League has to find some new direction, or else everything's screwed. Everyone's gonna die. And the only thing that's stopping Luthor and Perpetua from completely taking over is the fact that he only has 6 of those 7 forms of energy. If he obtains the 7th, it's implied that there's nothing that can truly stop him or Perpetua. And so Luthor has begun the final phase of his plan. He has broadcast the news of the multiverse's inevitable destruction far and wide, and has begun to empower villains all across the world in an effort to stretch the Justice League to its limit. He then completely destroyed his original body and blew up his company headquarters so that he could be reborn as one of the older creatures that was a hybrid of humanity and the alien race it was separated from years ago, which had been relegated to live on Mars. After he was reborn as a Martian-human hybrid, Luthor reached out to one of the only other surviving Martians, John Jones of the Justice League. Luthor explained his plan to the Martian Manhunter, but John quickly rejected Luthor's offer to join his side and realized the original purpose of their 2 species. In response, Luthor forcibly absorbed John into his body. I wanted to lay it all out in this video because I think it's really interesting to look at Luthor and his plans and how he's come to this point. I would argue that even though Luthor's returned to his villainous ways, he's very far from what he was before he joined the Justice League and what is the usual set of motivations for any given comic book villain. Yes, Luthor is being amoral and has done some pretty awful things throughout all of this, but he isn't doing it out of malice. He genuinely wants to help people, but came to realize he'd have to change everything about humanity to truly protect it in the long term. He's embraced the inevitability of doom, but not the idea of it. He wants both himself and humanity to survive beyond the existence of their own multiverse, and he's willing to free Perpetua, let her wipe out the entire multiverse, enslave humanity, and forcibly convert every person on Earth into her army. It's sinister stuff, but not truly evil. Luthor simply would rather survive at Perpetua's side than allow for humanity to die alone. I get that. I don't agree with it, but I totally understand what Lex is doing and why. I really think Scott Snyder and James Tynion IV have crafted a compelling story here. It's big, ambitious, and crazy, but also pretty intriguing and interesting. It reminds me an awful lot of the Justice League comics written by Grant Morrison, and that's a very lovely thing. As for the changes to Lex himself, while I was initially concerned about Luthor backsliding into being a villain, considering how damn fun it was when he was Superman, part of the intention of this video is to show the train of thought that sort of went into how Luthor's character came to be the man he is today. Because I really don't think the old, classic, villainous Lex Luthor would have been willing to turn himself into a half-alien general for some creepy primordial goddess. This is new. Lex took a good, long look at the maddening life of a superhero and chose to burn the whole system down. That's a fascinating reaction to that sort of life, and a cool bit of character insight on the part of these writers. Add to it the cool design of Lex Luthor's new body by the various artists who have been working on these comics, and I'm really digging the new Lex Luthor and what he's done so far as a villain. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and keep reading comics.